Jaden took slow, deliberate steps toward the cashier, acutely aware of the curious, cautious glances from the other diners in the room. No one said a word, but in that heavy silence, he could hear the hushed whispers, the clatter of silverware coming to a stop, the soft thud of a door swinging shut, as if everything in the space was holding its breath the moment he moved forward. Doyle spotted him, raising an eyebrow, voice cold as ice. "What's this? The kid wants to play hero?" Jaden swallowed hard, throat dry and bitter. His hand clenched the strap of his backpack so tightly the knuckles turned white, but he didn't stop. He walked right up beside Mr. Walter and Mrs. Margaret, placing himself between them and Doyle. He only reached Doyle's shoulder, but he lifted his chin and met the man's eyes head-on. "You don't have to talk to them like that." The room froze. Doyle gave a short, bitter laugh. "And who are you supposed to be? Teen attorney?" Jaden shook his head. His voice came out hoarse but steady. "I'm someone who knows how to treat people with respect." A flicker of surprise passed across Doyle's face, but it quickly twisted into irritation. "Kid, you don't get it. This is a business, not a charity." Jaden didn't reply. He bent down, unzipped his backpack, and pulled out a worn bundle of bills, buried deep at the bottom. Money scraped together over weeks. He placed it on the counter. His hand trembled slightly, but his gaze didn't waver. "Here, enough to cover their meal, and mine, if it matters." Mrs. Margaret burst into tears. Mr. Walter reached for Jaden's hand, but the boy only gave a small nod, never looking back. Doyle stared at the wad of bills, then at Jaden, his expression no longer mocking but guarded, unreadable. He gave a curt nod, stuffed the money into the drawer, and turned away like nothing had happened. Jaden stood still for a few seconds, his heart pounded, chest rising and falling with anger, hunger, and the sheer chaos of what had just unfolded. But above all that, there was a lightness, a quiet relief that he hadn't walked away. Jaden remained there at the center of the roadside diner, normally buzzing, but now strangely still. After the last bill was handed over and Doyle reluctantly accepted it, life snapped back to normal like nothing ever happened. No applause, no grateful glances. Just the hum of the coffee machine starting up again, the creak of doors opening and shutting, and the sound of someone chewing through a cold, half-eaten sandwich. He returned to his table. The cup of cocoa was now stone cold, and the half-eaten burger had lost all its warmth and taste. Nothing left but a dry lump in his mouth. His stomach still ached with hunger, but now there wasn't a single dollar left to fix it. 3 months of saving, car washes, yard work, and crumpled coins dropped into a tin can now sat inside the cash drawer of a man with a heart like a slab of ice. An older couple sitting nearby glanced his way, then looked away quickly, as if afraid to get involved. A young waitress passed by. Her eyes met Jaden's for just a beat. There was something like guilt in her gaze, but she said nothing, just kept walking. Not a word from anyone. The world went on like always, as if what Jaden had done was nothing more than a gust of wind slipping through the cracks. Margaret was the first to come back. Her hands were still trembling from the ordeal. Walter followed close behind, eyes glossy but trying to stay composed. Margaret handed Jaden a napkin. On it, a phone number scribbled in shaky, slightly smudged ink. She gently squeezed his hand. "This is our number. If you ever need anything, anytime." Jaden had no words. He just nodded, holding the napkin tightly like it was the only thing left from that moment that he could keep. They left, stepping through the glass doors into the biting wind and night outside. The door clicked shut behind them, and just like that, it was over, as quickly as it had begun. Jaden sat for a while longer, not really sure why. Maybe because his legs weren't ready to move. Maybe because he wasn't ready to return to reality, where there'd be no birthday cake for his mom, no hope of fixing the busted old bike. He'd chosen to do the right thing. But why did it leave him feeling so hollow? When the bus arrived, Jaden boarded without a word. He took a seat in the very back where no one would notice him. Through the fogged-up window, the streetlights blurred past in long, pale streaks. He leaned his forehead against the glass and closed his eyes, though his mind kept spinning. Hunger mixed with a different kind of exhaustion, a kind born from sacrifice without recognition. An hour later, the bus pulled up near the rundown motel where he and his mom lived. Jaden stepped off, shoulders heavy, not from the backpack, but from everything he had lost in those fading hours. Yet as he slid the key into the rusted lock, something inside him still burned. A fragile but firm belief that he'd done the right thing, that even in poverty, even in loneliness, he hadn't turned his back on what was right. And sometimes, for Jaden, that alone was enough to keep going. He walked down the empty hallway, where the flickering yellow bulbs barely held their light. The apartment sat at the far end of the cheapest row of units. The walls were peeling from dampness, and the lock groaned as he turned the key. He took a deep breath before twisting the doorknob, like he needed to summon courage to step back into a world that didn't allow dreams or softness. The door creaked open, and the scent of an old electric stove mixed with faint herbal medicine hit him in the face. Monica, his mom, sat on a wooden chair beside the mini stovetop, a baggy sweater draped over her thin shoulders, her hair loosely tied at the nape of her neck, a few gray strands falling over her forehead. On the stove, a small pot of noodles boiled quietly. Beside it, 2 cheap seasoning packets, one red, one yellow, weighted, the kind you found at the end of the month when money ran low. Monica looked up when she saw Jaden. She smiled, though her eyes still carried worry. "You're back, honey? Was today tough?" Jaden just nodded. He slipped off his backpack, hung it on the makeshift wooden hook near the door, then sat down on a wobbly plastic chair across from the table. 2 plastic bowls sat ready, one full, one with just a few strands of noodles floating in cloudy broth. His portion. Beside it, half a boiled egg, sliced with care, like a fair share in a meal where everything was in short supply. Jaden picked up his chopsticks but didn't eat. His hands were icy, his heart heavier than ever. "Mom, I need to tell you something." Monica rested her hands on the table, tilting her head slightly, her gaze softening. "What is it, sweetheart?" Jaden lowered his head, avoiding her eyes. Then he started talking. Every detail, from the bus ride home, the gnawing hunger in his stomach, the roadside diner, Doyle, the elderly couple, and the impulsive decision to give away all his savings to help them. When he finished, the only sounds were the gentle clatter of the pot lid and the pounding of his heart, loud and steady like a warning drum. Monica didn't respond right away. She reached out and took his hand. "JD, you have nothing to apologize for." Her voice held no anger, just tiredness. And something else, something like pride woven into every word. She gave his hand a gentle squeeze, then continued softly. "That money, it was for fixing my bike, wasn't it?" Jaden froze. He nodded, eyes fixed on the cracked tile floor. "I had it all planned, new chain, new brakes, even a new seat, but now I don't have anything to give you for your birthday." Monica let out a small laugh, the kind of laugh that belongs to someone who's been sacrificing for years. "Sweetheart, you just gave me the best gift you possibly could. I don't need a new bike. What I need is to know that my son still has a kind heart, even when there's not much kindness left in the world." Jaden looked up, his throat tightening. "But nobody cared. No one said thank you. No one even looked at me. I feel like I did the right thing and somehow still got it wrong." Monica raised an eyebrow, her expression turning serious. "Doing the right thing doesn't always come with applause, but if the only time people do good is when someone's watching, then what kind of world would that be?" Jaden didn't answer. For the first time that day, he didn't feel cold anymore. His mother's hand was still wrapped around his, warm and steady like the woman herself. He pulled a napkin from his backpack, the one with the phone number Margaret had scribbled. He placed it gently on the table and whispered, "Rita left us. I probably won't call, but I think they're good people." Monica nodded, her eyes resting on the paper. And maybe, one day, you'll see them again. Good people don't just disappear, honey. They're just moving a little slower, that's all. Outside, the wind whistled through the cracks in the wooden door. Inside, mother and son sat side by side in a faded kitchen with a meal as thin as tears. But something inside Jaden had settled. Lighter, easier to breathe. It was late. Jaden lay on the old mattress spread across the worn wooden floor under a thin, fraying blanket. The streetlight outside filtered through the threadbare curtain, casting a pale streak of light across the ceiling. Monica had already fallen asleep, her breaths slow and even, but Jaden was wide awake, eyes staring at nothing, mind filled with scattered thoughts. He turned toward the wall, clutching his backpack to his chest like it might shield him somehow. His hand instinctively searched inside, not for money. He knew there was none left, but out of habit. And then, at the very bottom, his fingers brushed against something strange. Jaden sat up, slowly unzipped the bag, and pulled out a small, stiff object wrapped in worn black leather. He held his breath. Well, it was Mr. Walter's. He had no idea how it ended up in his backpack. Maybe it happened in the shuffle, or maybe Mr. Walter had slipped it in by accident when he handed him the napkin. Jaden opened the wallet, his movements careful, as if afraid of breaking something sacred. Inside were a few crumpled bills, an old driver's license, a Medicare card, and a small faded photo. Walter and Margaret standing in front of a tiny wooden house, both smiling, with a white fence and a blooming garden behind them. Jaden's chest tightened. He couldn't quite say why. Maybe because the smiles in the photo looked so real, so gentle, like the kind of people who shouldn't have to bow their heads just to get a meal. He turned the wallet over, checked one last time, then carefully placed it back. Tomorrow morning he'd have to do something, even if he was tired, even if he was broke, even if it brought trouble. He knew now he couldn't stay silent. The next morning was colder than usual. The wind stung Jaden's face as he pulled on his old jacket and walked the 3 blocks to the town's police station. He stood outside for a long moment, his worn-out shoes tapping lightly on the stone steps, mud still clinging to the soles. In his hand was the wallet, carefully wrapped in a plastic bag. Jaden took a deep breath, then stepped inside. At the front desk sat a middle-aged officer with gray stubble, cradling a cup of coffee. He eyed Jaden from head to toe, suspicion written all over his face. "Something you need, kid." Jaden set the wallet down on the counter. "I found this. It belongs to a man named Walter. They stopped by a diner yesterday, but I didn't get the chance to give it back. I just want to make sure it finds its way home." The officer glanced at the wallet, then back at Jaden. His expression softened slightly. He opened it, flipping through the contents. "There's a contact number in here." "Good. We'll take it from here." Jaden nodded and turned to leave, but the officer called after him. "Hey, what's your name? Got a phone number, just in case they want to thank you?" Jaden hesitated. He wasn't sure he wanted to be found, but then he gave the number. Slowly, clearly, and stepped out of the station as if he'd just set down a weight that had been pressing on him all night. The cold was still there, but this time, somewhere deep inside, a small spark of hope had lit up. The afternoon passed in a heavy silence. Monica was fast asleep after her night shift, and Jaden sat by the window, one hand stirring a watery bowl of chicken soup, the other still clutching the napkin with Margaret's phone number on it. He'd read that line of digits dozens of times, memorized it without meaning to, and yet, for reasons he couldn't explain, he still hadn't called. When the knock came, Jaden nearly dropped his spoon. 3 knocks, not hurried but steady, certain. He glanced at the clock. It was just after noon. Not the landlord, not a delivery. In this neighborhood, no one showed up unannounced. Jaden looked toward his mother, Monica still asleep, curled up with her arms across her stomach, her face pale from exhaustion and poor nutrition. Jaden stood and walked slowly to the door. He placed his hand on the knob. his heart pounding for reasons he couldn't name. When he opened it, a gust of cold air swept in, and so did the sight that froze him in place. Margaret and Walter stood before him. They looked like they belonged to another world. Long coats, polished leather shoes, calm and composed. But their eyes were warm. No condescension, no pity. Just two adults with a smile that felt honest. "Jaden, right?" Margaret's voice was like warm tea on a winter day. "We came to say thank you." Jaden couldn't find words. His heart raced, not from fear, but from disbelief. How did they even find him? Walter held up the leather wallet, the very one Jaden had turned in. "The police gave us your number. All it took was one call and a quick question at the gas station nearby. Luckily, your friend Brandon gave us very clear directions." Monica stirred at the sound of voices. She stepped into the living room, frowning at the two strangers standing inside her home. Instinctively, she moved in front of Jaden, her tone edged with caution. "Excuse me, who are you?" Margaret stepped forward quickly, offering a hand. "I'm Margaret. This is my husband, Walter. Your son at the diner the other day. He stood up for us when no one else would." Monica turned to Jaden. He lowered his head, fingers gripping the hem of his shirt. "Didn't say anything. I didn't want you to worry. I spent all my savings." Margaret spoke gently. "He didn't just pay for our meal. He saved us from a moment of public humiliation, some things money can't measure." Walter added, his voice low and steady. "No one expects a kid to do something like that, but when grown-ups stay silent and a boy speaks up, that boy deserves to be heard." Monica's face shifted, confused, overwhelmed. She looked between Jaden and the guests, her eyes flickering between suspicion and gratitude. "I thank you for coming, but the truth is, we don't have much. I don't know how we could ever repay you." Walter raised a hand, gently, calmly, as if trying to keep something fragile from breaking. "We're not here to offer charity, ma'am. We came because we saw something in your son, something we've spent our whole lives searching for. Courage. Without condition." Margaret stepped forward, her eyes locking with Monica's, not with pity, but with respect. "When I was Jaden's age, I grew up in poverty too. I know the look people give you when they don't believe you'll ever rise above it. I know the smell of kerosene lamps, the feeling of waiting for your parents to come home to an empty pot." Monica froze, her expression softened. Margaret continued, "But someone helped me once. Not with money, but with a real chance, and I made a promise that if I ever had the chance, I'd pass that same opportunity on to someone who truly deserved it." She placed an envelope on the table. She didn't push it toward anyone, she just set it down. Then "This is only the first step, no strings attached, no expectations. We just want to say, Jaden deserves a different path." Jaden still hadn't said a word. In his mind, everything spun. Memories of being turned down for scholarships because of missing paperwork, dinners made of watery noodles and halved boiled eggs, his mother's quiet sigh when the electric bill came past due. A fresh start? The words sounded too big, too far away. He looked at his mother. Monica was trying to smile, but her hands were clenched so tightly they'd gone pale. She'd heard promises like this before, promises that vanished. She'd believed, hoped, and been crushed. I don't want you to get the wrong idea," Monica said, her voice trembling. "We're not asking for anything. We're not looking for handouts." Walter tilted his head, calm and unwavering. "And we're not offering one. We just saw your family, and we knew if we walked away, it would sit heavy on our conscience." Margaret smiled, patient and steady. "But the choice is yours, and Jaden's. All we want is to keep this door open, in case the two of you are ever ready to walk into a new chapter." The room fell silent, but not with tension this time. It was the kind of silence that comes when everyone realizes something has just shifted. Jaden didn't know exactly what lay ahead, but for the first time, he didn't feel small. He felt like he was standing at the threshold of something bigger. Not a gift, but a real chance. The apartment behind the closed door suddenly felt too small. Not because of the size, but because of what had just been laid on the table. an envelope and an impossible offer. Monica stared at it like she was afraid it might explode at any moment. I still don't understand, she said, her voice hoarse. Whether from anxiety or years of exhaustion, it was hard to tell. Who are you, really? Walter sighed. Not the kind of sigh that comes from weariness, but the kind that means he's about to reveal something he's kept hidden for a long time. If I told you we were just people who got lucky, I don't think you'd believe it. The truth is, we're not just a retired couple. He pulled a simple black business card from his coat pocket. Faintly embossed on it was the logo of a major real estate firm, a name Monica had seen on TV, but never imagined would have anything to do with her. Margaret spoke gently. We started with nothing, truly. Built our way up from the bottom. Decades of hard work and a bit of luck brought us to where we are today. We live comfortably now, very comfortably. But one thing has never changed. We remember what it feels like to be told we're not good enough. Walter nodded. Someone once told me back when I worked as a security guard, you'll never be more than a guy with a mop and a bucket. I never forgot that, and I swore if I ever got the chance to help someone climb out of the place I once stood, I wouldn't look away. Jaden's eyes widened, something deep inside him shifting. He looked at his mother. Monica still frozen, like stone, but her lips trembled ever so slightly. Margaret continued. When Jaden helped us that day at the diner, he didn't know who we were. He didn't know anyone was watching. He had no reason to speak up, but he did. And that's why we believe in him. Walter pulled a small folder from the inside of his coat. Though he didn't place it on the table, he just held it in his hand. This is an official offer, not to repay a favor. No conditions, no binding contracts, just an invitation for Jaden to attend a better school, to live in a safer neighborhood, and for you, Monica, to work with an income that lets you hold your head high. Monica let out a breath, as if she'd been holding it in for minutes. But why would you do this? Margaret smiled, because so many people could. But don't. And we refuse to be part of that silence. Jaden lowered his head, eyes stinging. Inside him, something like hope, something that had long gone cold, was beginning to flicker back to life. Margaret pulled a small photo from her wallet and placed it gently next to the envelope. It was a picture of her in her younger years, standing in front of a tiny wooden house, sunlight glowing behind her. Her face was bright with youth, but her eyes, those eyes looked just like Jaden's. Cautious, guarded, and quiet. I've been in this place before, and if someone hadn't given me a chance back then, I would have never found my way out. Silence blanketed the room. Only the slow ticking of the wall clock echoed in the background, steady, indifferent. Jaden picked up the photo. He didn't say anything. But his mother could see. His hand was trembling. I'm not sure, Jaden stammered. Is this real or just... Walter rested a hand on his shoulder, light but firm. It's real. But only if you're willing to believe it, Margaret added softly, as if to close the moment. Take your time. We're not expecting an answer today. But this door, it won't stay open forever. The room was so quiet, Jaden could hear every tick of that old wall clock. Each beat weighed heavy on his chest. In front of him sat the envelope, the business card, and Margaret's faded photo. They didn't move, but in his mind they pulsed, pressing for a decision. Monica stepped forward and sat across from him. She stared at the envelope, then lifted her eyes to her son. In her gaze was exhaustion, worry, but more than anything, uncertainty. She was adrift. "Mom," Jaden whispered. "I'm listening. What do you think, if this is real?" Monica didn't respond right away. She poured more water into a chipped mug, the steam curling up in a soft fog between them. I've seen people come around saying help, opportunity, a better life. They smile, speak kindly, then disappear. leave us behind with debt and shame for daring to hope. Jaden lowered his eyes. He remembered when his mom took a loan from a support program and ended up with interest twice what was promised. She'd blamed herself for a month for believing them. But Margaret and Walter, they don't feel like that. No one feels like that in the beginning, Jaden. The truly good ones don't say they are. And the ones who say no strings attached usually hide a hook somewhere. Jaden clenched his hands. He understood. He knew she was scared. He was scared too. But this time, something felt different. I know you're tired, Mom. But if we stop believing, what do we have left? Monica looked at her son, the boy she'd taught how to go hungry, how to keep quiet, how not to ask for more. And now, he was the one daring to imagine a future, something she hadn't done in years. I promised you a better life, Monica said, voice thick with emotion, but I couldn't give it. I've watched you grow up around overdue bills, empty plates, and a sadness we never speak out loud. I'm scared. I'm scared too, Mom. Scared this is all just a beautiful dream. But I'm even more scared of turning it down and never knowing what might have happened if we just stepped through that door. That stopped her. Monica looked at the photo on the table. Margaret in her youth, hope glowing in her eyes in front of a weathered home. There was a truth Monica didn't want to admit. Those eyes looked just like hers once did. Back when she still dreamed. A moment passed, then Monica picked up the phone. Her hands trembled slightly. She held it out to Jaden. Call them, if this is real, we're not walking away this time. But you need to know, if we step through this, we go all the way. Jaden nodded. He dialed the number on the card. A woman's voice answered, calm and professional. It wasn't Margaret, but her assistant. She greeted Jaden by name, asked how he was doing, then explained they'd arranged temporary housing and a private meeting to go over the support plan in detail. There are no obligations up front, she said. If either of you feels it's not the right fit, you can walk away at any time. Jaden thanked her, still gripping the phone tightly. When he hung up, he turned to his mom. Is sending a car for us tomorrow, just a visit. Not moving yet. But I think I want to go. Monica smiled, a small, pale smile. But it was real.